Welcome back. Now, we should be able to get to the end of Shiki's path this time out, and hopefully cover all the endings remaining. So, we headed out to the park. Just as we were about to take a seat, the priestess cut between me and Shiki. Shiki frowned as Towa glared at me. You... Me? What do you intend to do with my sister? What do you mean? She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. She didn't come home last night. Towa, stop. Shiki took Towa's arm. Stepping a few meters away, they had an argument about the Stringless God in hushed whispers. I suddenly noticed a pair of new strings attached to Towa. Oh, one was to me, a moderate black of resentment. One was to Shiki, faint and thin. Uh-oh. Upon Towa leaving, I mentioned one to Shiki. Ooh. This feels rather important. There's a black string between you two. Shiki gasped. Eh? I gestured toward it, but she couldn't see my hand. Blindly following my movements, she moved her hand through the empty air. She frowned. You can't see that one. I can't sense it. Shiki shook her head. Shiki smiled wryly. It's connected to me, isn't it? She frowned. Neither of us have ever been able to see the ones attached to ourselves. As long as no one else cuts our bonds, they'll be forever preserved. Shiki smiled, miserably. But if one day the time of salvation comes... She trailed off with a frown. Tomorrow's the dance, isn't it? According to plans, we would dig up Mikami Itoha's grave on the night of the thread-cutting sword dance when everyone else was occupied. She nodded before leaning close to my ear with a whisper. She smiled as she spoke. Still on with the digging? Yeah. Have you prepared? Of course. Will you be able to keep watch? Strings ping off of inanimate objects and come out through people. I have somewhat of a sense for my surroundings. Anything else I'll keep my ears open for. All you need to do is dig. That. I felt my upper arms. I really wasn't strong at all. And, considering my stamina, I wasn't sure how quickly we would be able to reach the coffin. What sort of Mikami Itoha would be fine buried? I look forward to seeing the results. What a strange thing to say. Looking forward to digging a grave. I felt a bit of regret that I would miss out on the ceremony dance. What's the dance like? Shiki frowned. It's a sword dance that makes the strings sing. I'm sorry that you'll miss my sister performing. A playful smile came to her lips. I'll show you, detective. She stepped back and twirled around before starting to dance for me. Imitating holding a sword, she swept her arm to the side and flew around an imaginary stage. Her invisible blade cut through invisible strings. My heartbeat quickened. I seemed to see the air ripple and shine, sparkling with light of infinite colors. The light favored her. It followed her movements as she cut it, and not in a violent movement, but a smooth and delicate one. She was shining. If a world could be cruel to such a beautiful girl, then this world is wrong. After an ephemeral sequence, Shiki slowed her movements. Lowering the invisible blade, she opened her palm, as if handing it off, and stopped. She walked close to me once more. Shiki's smile was a little somber. The choreography that I've always known is for two people. It'll become just one from now on. Clap, clap, clap. I applauded her performance just for me. She seemed a bit surprised. You're beautiful. Shiki blushed. She smiled. Thank you. Clap, clap, clap. With the sounds of another pair of hands clapping also came footsteps. Shiki's beautiful smile ran away. Keeper appeared. Wonderful dance. She smiled. I'm happy to see that you two are getting along so well. Hello, Keeper. Shiki lowered her voice and gripped her hands tightly at her sides. Keeper looked at Shiki as if she was trying to express sympathy. Your sister appeared upset when I passed her earlier today. Didn't you two have an argument? Shiki forced a smile. It's just a normal sibling squabble. You don't need to worry about it. Keeper relaxed. I see. It would be good if you could make up... God, I'm sorry. It would be good if you could make up for the ceremony. It wouldn't do to dampen the light of the great prayer to the Stringless God, unless we are unable to reach. Shiki responded blankly. Thank you for the advice. Then Keeper turned toward me. She gave me a floaty smile. I'm glad you were able to make it to a few of our gatherings. How did you find them, and do you have anything you'd like to ask me? They were very educational. Can I ask about the priestesses? Specifically, why are there priestesses? Is it to do with the Mikami family? Keeper explained plainly. The Mikami family is the family of the shrine. That in and of itself does not define the role of a priestess of the Stringless God. A priestess is someone who can see, and Mikami blood is not required. She smiled. A true priestess like our current priestess is capable of more. They can cut with their will because their birth was blessed by the Stringless God. The strings that bind humanity are but fragile strings to them. Normal humans, even given the ability to see, need a special apparatus. Like what? A blessed sword. Try to imagine what such a sword would look like. Before coming to this town, I had truly believed that there could be no such thing sharp enough to cut the strings between people. My untouchable black strings. Shiki made an annoyed smile. Don't you have to prepare, Keeper? I'm lucky to have the support of the many other believers of the Stringless God in this town. We have no worries about preparations at this moment. Keeper smiled politely at me. Again, I'd like to invite our guest to the ceremony tomorrow. However, if I'm interrupting your conversation, I'm happy to leave you to talk for now. I'm sure we'll have a chance to speak another time. Her eyes narrowed. For example, at the time of salvation. Shiki frowned. Keeper bowed and left. Thank you for being delightfully ominous as usual. The rest of the day passed, as did the night. Time to go dig up a grave. On the day of the thread-cutting sword dance, we split until evening, when we planned to meet up at the location of the ceremony. Bushes and grass surrounded the area. The night hung overhead. The townspeople had constructed a wooden stage which Towa would perform atop. It was massive, with strings of various colors tied around wooden poles and decorating the edge. The pale yellow backdrop had a large red ribbon pinned up with red spider lily bouquets. Long strings hung down from the bouquets and nearly touched the floor. White flowers snaked around the wooden columns in front. At the foot of the stage was a line of decoration that alternated between yellow lanterns and more red spider lilies. Shiki stood in the clearing with me. Let's wait until more people arrive. Townspeople arrived in groups. The viewing area quickly became crowded, covered with strings. Less than I would have expected from this many people. The entire town seemed to have come watch. Soon, Towa appeared on the stage. Shiki watched her sister with concern. Towa began to dance, holding a sword in her hand. The way the blade glinted in the stage lighting made me think that it must have been real. Time to go, detective. Here we go. Moving away from the light, we entered darkness as we arrived at the cemetery. This feels like what Shiki might have been doing at the time that she got killed. In Towa's Ending 2 path. As usual, we ignored the general tombstones and entered the Mikami section, stopping before the grave that we were soon to desecrate. Shiki passed me a shovel and a pair of work gloves. She grinned. Time to dig, detective. The grin disappeared, and she became determined. Mikami Itoha is waiting. I put on the gloves, propping up the shovel with my foot. After flexing my hands and thrice under the rough cloth, I grabbed the shovel handle. Dead, I hope. Shiki stood by, patiently. Thunk. With a thrust, I stabbed the shovel head into the grave plot. Not an expert at digging, I used my foot to push against the shovel and fling a sizable chunk of dirt to the side. I dug and dug and dug. Bit by bit, a pile of dirt began to accumulate next to Mikami Itoha's grave, spilling over to the next person's plot. Thunk. My arms grew sore, as did my back. What was the correct way to dig? I really had no clue, but I didn't let go of the shovel. Bang! Finally, I hit the coffin. In fact, the grave was relatively shallow, but I still had to uncover the rest of its length. I kept digging and digging. How long had I dug? I felt as if I had shoveled for hours. Even the moon had seemingly moved. How much was left? The metal of the shovel made a squeal as it scraped against the coffin. At this point, I had stepped into the hole I created under the ground. The majority of the narrow coffin's length revealed beneath the dirt. If I took a particularly large stride, I could step back out directly back to Shiki. As my chest throbbed and my arms wobbled simply holding the shovel, I doubted I could manage such a stride at the moment. Shiki passed me a bottle of water and I took a sip, the cool liquid bringing relief to my throat. Wiping away my rapidly cooling sweat, I shoveled away the last of the dirt. Thunk. I dropped the shovel outside of the pit and grabbed the lid of the coffin. My hands unsteady, numb from holding the shovel for so long. I grasped the lid a number of times before getting a decent hold of it. Then I pulled. With so much force that I flung myself backwards into the dirt, moved the lid that soon fell from my hands. Shiki was curious. What's inside? Nothing. There's nothing inside. Shiki frowned. All I could see was an empty coffin. Vertigo overcame me as I told myself to take deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. The photo in my pocket burned. Shiki seemed upset. I turned to get out of the pit, but my body felt like my limbs were lead. As I put my hands on the slightly higher ground, I couldn't lift myself up enough to climb. Help me out. Shiki took my hands and slowly dragged me out. My body was going to rip apart. So she's not inside. Shiki looked mad. Mikami Itoha is missing. Shiki was insistent. We definitely buried her. I just wanted to dig up her corpse and verify. Means she either got up and walked away herself or someone made off with her body. But why? Realization dawned on Shiki. Salvation. What? Salvation. Mikami Itoha died, but she doesn't need to be dead. She's the Holy Maiden. Was that fear in her voice? What might you be doing here? Uh-oh. Shiki's brows raised at the voice. Keeper's clear voice cut through our conversation. We turned in unison to find her behind us, the woman surrounded by monsters. Monsters, 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 monsters. They're so close that I could see the broken flesh where the darkness burst out from the limp human bodies. Drip, drip, drip. Monsters. Keeper was surrounded by monsters, but her expression was the same as usual. I grabbed my chest, feeling the racing of my heart, trying to breathe and calm myself. Dug my fingers into my chest, into my scars. Priestess. A distorted voice shrieked, sending me rushing to cover my ears. Shiki looked on defiantly. I have nothing to say. Did Shiki not see that these were monsters either? Even if her eyes were unable to perceive, shouldn't the noise of the creatures have alerted her? We had to run away. Grabbing her hand, I turned to lead Shiki away, only to find the ground disappear beneath my feet as a force ran me from the back. Shiki gasped. What? Oh! I fell into the ditch I dug, crashing against the coffin, causing dirt to fall atop my shoulders. The moon hung over me in the night sky. You're kind of slow, aren't you? Drip, 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 drip. The distortion of its voice hurt my ears. I couldn't hear what the monster was saying. If it was saying human words. Drip, 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 drip. Bang! My head slammed against the ground. The monster had picked up the shovel and swung it at me. The impact gave me clarity for just a second. Stumbling to get up, I frantically moved my hands to regain balance. The shovel did not wait. Stab. Seeing the metal of the shovel embedded in my torso, I could help but feel that it was rather mundane for a monster to do so. Yeah! Shiki knows something bad's going on. I was going to die, wasn't I? Watching as the shovel tore out of my body, sending a spray of red mixture, mixing with the dark of the dirt. I had eyes with the monster. That thing could be considered an eye. Everything hurt. I was looking at my left eye. Drip, drip, drip. So the sound of darkness or my life escaping from the seams of my ragdoll body. Stab. I couldn't feel my legs. Couldn't bear to look down at myself. I'd been torn apart. Scared. Scared, scared, scared. Strings weren't meant to be read like this. They weren't meant to come out of human bodies sticky. Not my body. Not again. Why? Stab. Ah, I was dead. Splat. Dead End 3. Well, that's concerning. Geez, I think we calmed down here. She took my hand into hers and squeezed. She was warm. Sorry. My shaking began to subside with her touch. I shouldn't start freaking out at you. Shiki gave me a reassuring smile. She frowned. If you're right, then the monster is very, very good at hiding. I really do hope there aren't monsters hiding inside of people. Me too. Left unsaid was the question of how this related to Mikami Itoha. We stood around for a little longer without speaking. Okay. Okay, so if we calm down, we get a choice here. Running away is probably gonna... I think we defaulted to running away before. Let's actually save. And stay in place. Keep her smirked. You can't say that, dear priestess. It's not acceptable to dig up graves, much less that of a respected family member. What are you doing here? I step between Shiki and the monsters, staring Keeper down despite the cold sweat on the back of my neck. We should be the one asking you that question. Where is Mikami Itoha's corpse? Keeper's smile disappeared. Monsters moved closer, stealing away my breath. Drip. Keeper held up a hand to stop the warped forms of darkness. Shiki was annoyed. Keeper spoke dryly. Mikami Itoha is the Holy Maiden. She will be reborn in the image of the Stringless God. Keeper smiled broadly, with reverence. The time of salvation is soon to be here. In other words, freedom, the glory of the light in the shining world. You too will see it if you have the blessing to be alive at that moment. Keeper gave an icy glare. Is that a threat? Keeper made a motion with her hand to go. In an instant, the monsters shifted. pair first surrounded Shiki, grabbing her arms and twisting them behind her back. Sharp teeth and claws brushed against her skin. Shiki protested, "Let go of me." "I'm afraid not, woman. Priestess. You will come with us to celebrate." Shiki looked defeated. Drip, drip, drip. Throwing off my fear for a moment, I rushed forward to help her. Yet a stumble as a force tugged me back. Keeper looked like she was about to laugh. I felt red and darkness grip my arm, distorted tongue lapping along my skin with cold, warm liquid, tasting and preparing me to eat. The monster was so close that I could see the details of its moving teeth. Froze. Words wouldn't come out. Shaking, I tried to remove the monster's grip, but it instead squeezed my arm harder, digging imaginary claws into my arm to make imaginary gouges. I bled. I didn't bleed. A soft whine of pain escaped from my throat. My vision shook as my legs lost strength. The monster held me up, not letting me fall. My shoulder creaked, carrying my weight, my arm like a handle. Keeper walked closer, gazing at my face. She traced along my cheek with a cold finger, touching on my right eyelid, or pressing under my left eye. Brows furrowed with excitement. Golden, a miraculous color. What does your eye see? Taking her hand off my skin, she pointed at my left eye. The finger was so close that my vision wobbled, trying to focus. I shook, yet I couldn't move away. If she came even a tiny millimeter closer, she could puncture it. Keeper touched my golden eye. All went black. Oh! I woke up to a dark room and a throbbing head. I could feel masonry underneath me. A single tiny light hanging overhead was the only source of illumination. Everything, from the metal door to the stone walls, was weathered and damp. Plumbing stuck out haphazardly from the walls and ceiling. I pressed my palm against my temple, wincing as I tried to remember what occurred after the ceremony confrontation. Nothing. Where am I? The place echoed my voice, emptier than a jail cell. Looking upwards, I saw no windows. The stone floor and walls were cold, leaving a chill clinging to my body as I stood up. I was alone, and the sparse black strings connected to my own body accompanied me. Hello? No one responded. Drip. I seemed to hear something in my ear. Monster. I swirled my head to look behind me, feeling my heartbeat turn erratic as I remembered the monsters at the cemetery. I saw nothing. No black and red atop a human body. I saw no strings but my own. However, that was where the monsters were. Monsters came with not a single string. They were darkness, dripping in darkness like that made the world undulate around them. Turning my head back and forth, I jumped at the shadows that seemed to stare at me in red. I was scared. I couldn't stop shivering. Hugging my jacket closer to my body, I tried to erase the image of those monsters. It burned in my retinas. Couldn't. Not even when I squeezed my eyelids shut. Shoko's photo was still inside my pocket. As always, she was silent. Shoko had already left. Drip. There was no water. Curled up. Darkness embraced me, and I tried to ignore its tongue and claws. There's nothing here. The muffled sound of footsteps entered my ears. Couldn't hear well beyond the stone walls and metal door. I think I'm gonna puke. The door hinges squeaked as dim hallway light filtered in through the largening crack. Shiki. A familiar figure entered. It was Shiki. She spoke with a blank face. You're here. Where's this? We should be underground beneath the shrine right now. The pressure on my shoulders relaxed as we began to talk. Brows furrowed. Do you remember what happened? No. After we dug up Mikami Itoha's grave, we found her body was missing. Then Keeper and those monsters showed up. After that, I can't remember anything. She raised her brows in surprise. Monsters? Shiki gave me a disarming smile. What's wrong, Mana? Oh, Who are you? I'd never given her my name, because she had never asked for it. Who are you? The stranger feigned confusion. What do you mean? You're not Shiki. She frowned. She pulled down the blindfold, revealing a pair of golden eyes. She stared at me blankly. Her face was the same as Shiki's, however she wasn't Shiki. She couldn't be the girl who roped me in as an accomplice to grave digging, the girl who charmed me. Tearing the cloth off her face, she flung it to the side. Towa smiled a little. You can tell us apart. I can respect that. What can I say? She's special. Towa frowned somberly. Yes, she's special, my precious little sister. I don't know if you understand how special she is to me. Towa's brows furrowed in anger. It's your fault. Shiki's in trouble again. What do you mean, again? She only raised her voice without elaborating. Again. The door opened again with a creak. Keeper appeared. Much to my relief, she was alone, not a monster in sight. Towa greeted Keeper with a nod and left. Keeper smiled gently at me. How are you feeling right now? Not ideal. Not ideal. My palms began to sweat, and I almost put a hand over my left eye. I reminded that it was still intact by the fullness of my field of vision. Keeper's eyes narrowed. I lament that you had to be treated so roughly as a consequence of your actions at the cemetery. It is not our intent to blindly hurt you. But grave digging cannot be allowed. She made a grave expression. Come, please follow me. She opened the door, gesturing for me to exit the room to the hallway. So we're at a tough spot right now. After I exited, she closed the door and began to walk. Even if I bolted this moment, I wouldn't know where to go, so I could do nothing but follow behind her. Everywhere looked the same in this supposed underground. It was made up of rough and old brick walls and flooring. Lights lined the ceiling, while a thin strap of grating ran down from the center of the floor. There were plumbing pipes here and there, just like the room I was in. Where is this? Keeper smiled. We are currently walking in the tunnels underneath the shrine. You might call this the heart of the Stringless God's worship, the path to a holy place. Just as Towa had said, we were underground. Walking behind Keeper, I couldn't get a sense for the map of the place. How deep were we beneath the surface? Where was the exit? I reached a corner, but I wouldn't have known where it led to. What do you intend to do with me? Keeper smirked even. Mistakes are merely a matter of fact for the young and ignorant, but we must teach you why what you did was incorrect. First, let us show you the blessings of the Stringless God. It really concerns me that you're talking about Shiki being punished again. Blessings? Yes, blessings. After taking a turn, we entered another room. A familiar blindfolded girl with a red dress was there. Shiki! Spotting Shiki, I hurried over to her. Her usual bright smile was gone. She raised her brows in surprise at the sound of my voice. Detective! Relief flooded into my system as I saw that she was all right. Keeper came up to us. I glanced at her in distrust, but kept my focus on Shiki. I just suddenly have cold metal touch against my wrist. Click! Oh shit. Going to jail. Oh, that's concerning. Keeper had handcuffed me to a pole across from Shiki. Tugging my arm, I heard the metal clang, but I could not pull myself free. The pole did not move, and it was structured with a wide top that prevented me from slipping the handcuff upward to escape. Keeper smiled sadistically. Cut her strings. Eh? Shiki's face fell. Shiki shook her head. Keeper's smile went away. She glared, commanding. This isn't a request. Cut her strings. Shiki? Oh no. I'm sorry. This is all because I sinned. Her shaking hands ran along a black string, hesitant to touch it, as if a single disturbance would destroy the thin line. Tears ran down her cheeks. It's okay. I trust you, Shiki. Is this how city people flirt? Oh no. Not calling back to that, maybe. I'm sorry, Detective. Snip. Taking the string between her fingers, she pinched and cut the string. A flash of colors burst through my head like a bullet, bloomed into flowers sewn from shining strings. Petals floating down to the ground with a nice sense of balance. Euphoria? Intensely comfortable sensation ran down my spine, and jostling about in my brain as if all the tingling puzzles in the world pieced together. Glass shattered. Light erupted. Stone golden. Sorry to break the mood. And everything. And nothing. I gasped. My heart was racing, blood roaring in my ears like angels singing. Thrown back into reality, I felt as if I had lost a wonderful sensation. Before I knew it, Shiki's hands were holding me up as I had fallen over onto her. I'm sorry. She apologized with a voice that sounded like she was about to cry. About to? Shiki was warm, but trembling. Cut more of her strings. We only ever did one per person per event. That doesn't matter now. You can't. You will, unless you prefer us to cut something else from her. No one will know what happens here. Cut her strings. Shiki responded with silence, her fear congealing in the air. I was too disoriented to really tell what else Keeper would cut. My eyes? My limbs? My neck? Shiki helped me down to my knees so I wouldn't fall over again. Pressing her face into my shoulder for just a second, she let her tears wet my jacket. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My heart hurt. Why did she have to cry? She knows what's going to happen if all of our strings are cut, doesn't she? Her hands unsteadily reached out to nothing in the air and ripped. Splash! Colors and light blew out my brains. I twitched. I don't know whose bonds these are to you. I'm sorry. Regretting her choice in string, she grasped at the invisible somethings to tie them back together, failing as her hands would not stay steady. I'm sorry. Cut her strings. Cut her strings, 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 cut her strings. Cut, 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 cut. I had turned a shining, wet pudding mix. My teeth tasted sweet, gnashing against the pink fish in my mouth. I drowned before breathing, before drowning, before breathing. Couldn't breathe because I needed to feel. Didn't feel anything towards those people whose faces I couldn't remember. I'm sorry. I didn't want her to apologize. She was crying. Don't cry, said the spasming fish. Cut her strings. The cycle continued. I lost track of how many strings were cut, staring blankly at the distorted colors in the air as I slumped over Shiki's body. I felt blood drip from my nose, tasting the iron on my tongue. My ears were also a little wet. Something sticky was flowing down my neck. Well, this is bad. This is very bad. Despite my flickering vision, I could feel her warmth and her shoulders move as she hiccuped, crying still for me. I'm sorry, Detective. Grasping blindly in the air, I found her hand and held it tightly. Call me by my name instead. Anna. She was still so warm. Anna. I closed my eyes. What if I never woke up again? Probably make her cry more. I didn't want that. Thinking that I hadn't yet set my alarm for the morning, I fell into darkness. Now then, what was darkness? Some considered it the absence of light. Others considered it the abundance of black. For me, it was nothing but a constant. Cold water splashed on my face, jolting my eyes open and sending me coughing for air. Good morning. I woke in a puddle of blood, sweat, and liquids dripping from my head, including the water the keeper had just splashed at me. She stared down at me blankly. With a click, she removed the handcuffs from my wrist. Shiki was nowhere to be seen. The keeper dragged me along the ground and threw me out against a wall. Despite her thin appearance, she held deceiving strength in her arms. The keeper beamed like she was about to laugh, overjoyed. Rejoice, for the day of salvation has come. The dead holy woman has been revived. She smirked at me. Do you still wish to know about Mikami Itoha? Mikami Itoha. Of course. May you receive the blessings of the Stringless God. Oh, then the woman appeared. Soft footsteps down the corridor caught my attention. Mikami Itoha, wearing that face so similar to Shiki's, appeared as if not aged a day since the photo in my pocket. She wore a white dress and had black hair and pale skin, just like the twins. A single crystal earring hung on her right ear. Her eyes were red and looked slightly off. There she was, a dead woman walking, just like her grave itself. Her body had no strings. This was the person Shoko yearned for. My left eye twitched. Her presence made the air chill, sending shivers down my spine. Keeper bowed deeply to Mikami Itoha and took her leave. Mikami Itoha. Oh? Your younger sister. Your younger sister was also wondering about your whereabouts. Itoha frowned. Mikami Itoha doesn't have any siblings. Thought about the twins who claimed to be her younger siblings. Was that a lie? And why? Mikami Itoha closed the distance between us, her very presence freezing my nerves. Looking into her eyes, I saw all the colors of the world as well as none of the colors of the world. She wasn't human. She was cold, stringless, darkness. My shoulder crashed against the stone wall as I tried to back away. Her eyes narrowed in disappointment. Pitiful human, is that the extent of what you can understand with your golden eye? Her hand reached toward my left eye. Her fingertips felt like ice. She touched my eye and gouged it out. Oh! Well, that went well. That is our dead ends. That is very much our dead ends. Shoko. Do you know how much Shoko longed for you? I pushed myself to my feet, palms scraping against the stone wall. Shoko was dead now, but Mikami Itoha was right here before me. Even though Shoko was dead, this woman had been revived to the land of the living. I bit down on my lower lip. Shoko yearned for this person. My heart screamed it was a monster. Cold, stringless. My left eye screamed that there was darkness blacker than the darkest string of hate, lingering beyond her, as if her body was a mere tether to this world. Shoko. My body shook unconsciously from the numbing chill. Shoko. A light entered Mikami Itoha's eyes as Shoko's name left her lips. The cold reduced around us. Itoha looked at me curiously, or at least as much as our stiff face could. How is Shoko? Shoko is dead. The light began to leave her expression. I see. She died. The cold returned. You investigate for her sake, yet she is already dead. Because she's dead that she couldn't come and confront you herself. She couldn't come and find out what happened to you. That's why I... My tongue stopped moving, turning to ice in my mouth. Itoha smirked. Your search means nothing. She stared at me, icily. Mikami Itoha was born for the sake of being a holy maiden. A vessel born from a stagnant Mikami bloodline and a carefully chosen woman, whose sole role was to birth this flesh and blood that will never carry a string. A stagnant Mikami bloodline, Yasunobu, a carefully chosen woman, birth Mikami Itoha would never carry a string. Oh. She smiled emptily. That is all. Even the empty smile disappeared. Nothing is needed. Nothing is desired. For a brief moment, Itoha frowned. Not even Shoko. I am simply a body to fulfill a role. She made another empty smile. I died 5 years ago and was revived today. This is the day of the salvation. Blessings shall be bestowed upon all followers, and we shall see the shining world. You need not investigate any further than that. Frostbite ran up my fingers as she stepped closer, backed away only to hit the wall, hands grasping at the rough stone in instinctual hope for an exit. She opened my eyes and spoke slowly, enunciating each word. Shoko's wish will not be granted. Reaching out her pale hand, she touched my left eyelid for only a second. Without another word, Mikami Itoha turned away, stepping into the darkness. Gasping, tears of pain overflowing from my eyes, I slid down against the wall and clutched at my chest, my scars. Once she was gone, the cold dissipated. Counting my breaths, I slowly calmed the pain, wiped away my tears. Red. Looking at my now wet hand, I saw red all over the back. I wobbled my feet again, forcing myself off of the wall. Feeling something hard bump my pocket, I remembered my phone. I should call someone for help. I retrieved it from my pocket, the small rectangular box still intact with only a thin crack across the glass. Turning it on, I found no signal bars available. I fiddled with the settings and lifted the phone above my head to no avail. The battery icon also glowed red, showing me a low 10% charge. With no portable battery on hand, I could carelessly use the phone. Clicking it off, I put the device back into my pocket. Step, step, step. Footsteps. I was ready to bolt. Towa appeared with a sword in hand. To my surprise, I bumped my head against the wall while trying to run. Her presence was relief compared to any of the other options I imagined. Ow, ow. You're here. She stared me down. You don't look very good right now. Holding the back of my head, I eyed the blade in Towa's hand. Why are you holding a sword? I just happened to have it, and due to the dance. Given that her hands were free the last time I saw her, I couldn't help but doubt her words. However, seeing light glint off the sharp metal, I didn't comment. The weapon was good to have. Let's go. Yes, ma'am. Towa grabbed my arm and tugged me to start walking. Without any sense of direction in this maze, I trailed after her. Where's Shiki? Her brows furrowed, her expression dead serious. I don't know, but we have to find her. I'm following her strings. Keeper was behaving strangely. Shiki could get hurt again. I won't let it happen ever again, so help me. Towa marched forward without pause, though, through every twist and turn. Big Sis Angie. I eyed the thin black line that I knew to link Towa and Shiki. It was so thin that I could barely see, would barely call it a string of hate. The type of thread that comes from a quarrel. We walked hurriedly along the string. My sister wears a blindfold because of what happened to her eyes. We're identical twins, so the color of her eyes is the same as mine. At least it should be. Gold, the color that we shared. Towa frowned. But she was punished for drifting away from the Stringless God. I blinded her. I was the one who told Keeper what Shiki was thinking. Because of me, Keeper punished her. We took away her eyesight. A fire burned in her eyes. I can't let Shiki be hurt like that ever again. The guilt is real. No wonder she's so protective, even when Shiki's wants nothing to do with this place. Following the thin black, I sped up from the pace of my legs. We rushed through the underground path, running. Like, they almost have a yin and yang dichotomy going on here. Towa is aggressively protective over Shiki, while still serving the Stringless God. I say they're both protective over each other, depending on who you decide to focus on. And Shiki also wants to drift away from the Stringless God, but obviously does not want to leave Towa. You people are goddamn insane, Towa frowned. I know. We ran, our footsteps echoing in the darkness. You're weak. A sickly detective. Don't know how much you'll be able to help, but you care about her. You don't have many precious people, many people who hold us precious aside from our roles for the Stringless God. A smile could be heard in Towa's voice. That's why I'm glad Shiki could find someone like you. I couldn't tell what sort of expression she was making. The string between the twins began to disappear, becoming so thin that I had to squint to see. Oh! Panting, I nearly crashed into Towa's back as she skidded to a stop. Here. Oh. Oh, this is different. We passed through a doorway and the string snapped. Inside was a holy space. This has a different air to it. Ritual room. Endless abyss. Brick walls and useless light fixtures surrounded a massive hole in the ground with something glowing inside of it. Buzzing intensified in my ears. The air seemed to ripple as my sense of equilibrium warped. The colors weren't right. Oh, this is very bad. Oh, body horror. Hello. As we stepped inside, many eyes turned to look at us. Monsters were there. I stumbled into Towa. Shiki was surrounded by monsters. The usual smile was nowhere to be seen. Putting aside those gazes piercing into my body, knowing my suddenly throbbing scars, I dashed to Shiki's side with Towa. No one stopped us. Shiki! Shiki was alerted. Mana! Towa! We're here. Took her hand to give it a squeeze and she pulled me into a hug. Shoulders trembling, she took a shaky breath and buried her face into my chest for just a moment. She snickered shakily. You smell kind of gross right now. Guess I haven't showered since before we dug up Mikami Itoha's grave. Didn't have a sense of how long had passed since that evening. Yeah, that was already made us a sweaty mess, and then we kinda, had all of our strings cut all at once and bled out of several body cavities as a result. Welcome to the cradle of the Stringless God. Keeper's voice pierced through our reunion and made Shiki freeze up in my arms. Beside Keeper stood Mikami Itoha, cold and silent. Keeper smiled. The time of salvation is now. Her smile twisted into a sadistic grin. Although humans do not know what that means, the Stringless God will soon manifest into this shining world. She dropped the smile and glared at us. Please become part of the ritual obediently. Ritual was an ominous word for at this moment. I glanced around, trying to get a sense of what Keeper meant. For example, it could be another string cutting. The thought made my head hurt. Get to the left. For example, it could be an act of murder. Behind us was a deep pit, fathomless, filled with profound darkness yet color. If we fell, we would surely die. My stomach churned. While I was looking behind us, Towa looked forward towards Keeper and Mikami Itoha. Towa and Shiki looked baffled, shocked. Mikami Itoha? No, she's not supposed to be alive again. Why is she alive again? Why is the day of salvation here? Shiki dug her fingers into my arms, shivering. Drip. The monsters surrounding us began to move closer. Suppose in this instance, because of what we did, what Shiki and Mana did, all this started from deep inside the shrine already, so, don't have the grand reveal, or at least Shiki, Towa, and Mana are not present for the grand reveal of the Holy Maiden to the populace. We have bigger issues to worry about than a dead woman coming back to life, such as getting away from them. Step by step, they encroached on our space. Their darkness reached out towards us with teeth, claws, and tongues, undulating and stringless. Towa cried out in alarm. "Stay away!" Towa raised her blade to intimidate them. "Priestess!" The monster spoke, but I could not hear its voice. It made a noise that shook my skull, forcing me to cover my ears as my neck prickled with disgust. "I told you to stay away." "They're monsters. You don't need to be nice." Towa looked at me like I was insane. "What do you mean? They're human. I know them from around town." "Become part of the ritual for the Stringless God, priestesses." Noise had made the buzzing ring louder and louder in my ears, stabbing into my mind like nails on a chalkboard. I pushed my palms against my ears to no avail. My head shook. I felt Shiki squeeze me, giving me a sense of balance again. Trip, trip, trip. Towa took a slash at the monster, only to have her blade parried by a ferocious claw. Her eyes widened in shock. "What?" "This is your duty as a priestess." As the monsters reached out another arm, Towa hurriedly retracted her sword and swung again. This time her sharp blade easily lopped off a limb. The human flesh and blood went flying through the air, whistling as it fell into the abyss. Towa's features filled with disbelief. "What?" "Don't be disobedient." Sword and monster smashed against each other. Towa was just one person, yet like a dancer, she held off the small crowd. "You go, girl." Still, we were beginning to be pushed back. Breathing heavily, Towa took a well-aimed slash. With it went toppling down a monster. She winced as she saw the human head roll off her blade, splattering blood all over. She seemed speechless for a moment, but forced herself back into action as another monster rushed forward. "Priestess, we will not be stopped by the destruction of our vessels." Towa commanded us. "Run while I hold them off." "Sorry, we're leaving it up to you." I took Shiki's hand. As much as we don't want to leave Towa behind, we are just a burden on Towa in a battle, and she has to look out for us while fighting off all these monsters. Shiki was frightened. "What's going on? Monsters!" "Running first, talking later." Readying myself to run, knowing that my physical condition could only be called poor. Poor at best. We are not at our best. I eyed our surroundings to try to find an opening. There. "Don't run away." The monster grabbed my arm, stopping me in my tracks. My hand was torn from Shiki's in the next moment, and she was pulled away from me by another monster. Oh, shit. The monster threw me to the ground and pressed down on my body, holding it in place. I couldn't move. I couldn't flee. Grabbed my head with sharp claws and rammed me downward for good measure. Oh, God. My head bounced on the hard ground. Vision spinning, I felt red flow down my forehead. "Shiki!" Distracted, Towa took a hard impact to the shoulder, sending her stumbling. Her sword was flung to the ground in a clatter. Regaining her balance, Towa lunged toward her weapon. Before she could reach, she was lifted off her feet by darkness. Then she was slammed to the ground. Gah! Coughing to catch breath, Towa tried to rise to her feet, only to be kicked down. The monster stomped on her dominant hand, making a noise almost like laughter at the sound of bones cracking. Ooh, ooh. She shrieked in pain. Gah! We lost. Oh shit. The monster was pressing down on all of us. We looked like a grotesque pile of human in darkness. We had no way to get free. The sword was so close to me. The keeper stared down at us with pity in her eyes. "I politely requested you three to become part of the ritual, but I suppose politeness isn't enough. The end result is the same." She smiled. "Have you enjoyed your struggle? Are you going to throw us down there?" She looked at me like a mother reassuring her child. "Of course not." Her smile became twisted. "We'll just kill you for the ritual. It isn't the best option, but I can tell none of you will cooperate. Not even my favorite obedient girl, Towa." Keeper dropped the smile. "It's a shame." "Keeper, are you really doing this?" Keeper smirked. Yes, it's all for our god, so please fulfill your role as our beloved priestess until the very end. I can't. You will. Filled with shock and betrayal, Towa lowered her head. All three of us fell silent. Drip. I'm sorry. Shiki's voice cracked, lowering to a whisper as if holding back tears. Her expression was filled with regret and guilt. I'm sorry to both of you. Mana, I'm sorry I got you involved. You had nothing to do with all of this. I just wanted to protect Towa and figure out how to get her away from this cult. No, what I wanted to do was more selfish. I just wanted to stop my big sister from one day cutting our bonds with the Stringless God's hands. If I didn't have her, I wouldn't have anything. She smiled painfully for a moment. To think it would come to this. Shiki's face twisted into rage. We also had dreams. We also had things we wanted to do with our lives. She frowned. But they were all swallowed up by the Stringless God. Is this really freedom? Shiki. Unexpectedly, I also came to love a strange detective. She smiled wryly. I didn't know I could feel this sort of emotion. People were all the same. No one mattered aside from Towa, but to think that even I could... I thought the same. Think that even I could fall in love. I'm sorry, it didn't work out. I got you involved in something terrible. Can't even see what's going on, but I'm sure it's scary. I'm sure it's a terrible thing. I cut your strings, and I did this to you. Shiki frowned deeply. I'm sorry. Mana, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I was one who got you wrapped up in trouble. Investigating Mikami Itoha, sticking my nose in all sorts of things. I guess it's part of my job description to be nosy, but falling in love isn't really... I also fell in love with someone these past 2 days. A girl with a wonderful laugh, a clever brain, and so much warmth. I love you. Shiki blushed. She smiled with tears running down her face. I think this is worse than if you just rejected me. Bit of a crybaby, aren't you? It's okay. I also like it that you're kind, but I wish I could stop your tears and take away all these bad things. Couldn't even reach out my hand to wipe her wet cheeks. With soft footsteps, Mikami Itoha approached. She frowned. Are these my children? I'm somehow disappointed. Let their blood flow. Oh no, time to die. She circled around the three of us before stepping toward the pit, tracing her bare feet along the edge and looking downwards into the madness. Itoha smiled. We will manifest. At her words, all the monsters all rose and bowed deeply to Mikami Itoha's body. They bowed toward the abyss. He felt the hold on me loosen. The thing in the depth felt the same as Mikami Itoha. A cold darkness. Writhing, unfeeling, inhuman in a different way from the beasts born from human flesh. Was that the Stringless God? My eyes spasmed. As if my body lost control of itself, my head twitched and hit the ground again. Shakily, I looked upward again. Terror overtook my body as I gazed in Mikami Itoha's direction. The smile Itoha made had nothing behind it. To salvation. Now then, a question. Should I stay still and do nothing? Should I lament my fate? Should I make a foolish last move? Oh, I love that. Don't waste your time right-clicking to a menu. This decision couldn't be save scum from the loading screen. I had only one life. You can't tell me what to do. Of course there was only one choice. I dashed forward, slipping out from under the monster. My hand reached out for the sword before me. Monsters began to buzz again, screech again, make my ears bleed again. I ignored the throbbing in my skull. Mana! Tumbling across the ground, I forced myself to my feet. My target was no one but Mikami Itoha. Time seemed to slow. I plunged the sword into her chest, watching the blood spray across her pure clothes like flower petals on snow. Itoha simply frowned like I had inconvenienced her. This is what the little creatures have chosen, isn't it? I couldn't look into the abyss lest I go mad. Yet I met her eyes. They were indescribable. I wanted to run away, run. Frost seemed to run up my veins. I was unable to turn my head away. I kicked her torso, my hand stuck to the sword. Overcome with the urge to get away from her, I forced her into the abyss, wrenching the sword from her body. Mikami Itoha disappeared into the darkness. Time resumed. All the monsters screamed, then they collapsed onto the ground. I too fell onto the ground, toppling over due to the force I used to kick Mikami Itoha. My body was out of energy. I was done and simply stared blankly upward. The entire underground began to shake. Let's go! Vision flickering, I felt nothing but pain. Shiki grabbed my hand, forcing me up to my feet. She was warm. Then we started running. Follow me! Dragged out of the room with legs made of lead, I forced myself through the hallways to the stairs with Shiki pulling me along. Go on without me. No way. Even if I have to carry you myself, I won't leave you behind. The stairs shook. True to her word, she dragged me forward and up the endless stairs, even enlisting Towa to support me. Finally, we made it to the light. We were in the forest behind the shrine. Just as we did, the underground made a final shaking noise and a tremendous thud that sent the birds flying. It was already daytime. I was ready to collapse from exhaustion onto the grass. Suddenly, I found a hand through my chest. This wasn't the same burning pain as my spent lungs and heart, nor was it the ache of my scars. This was red, pouring from my body. I couldn't even scream. What? It hurt. This is no good. Dropped the sword in my hand. Vision became hazy as I toppled over, Keeper's hand retracting out my back. Shiki grabbed the blade I dropped on the grass. She acted in rage. I won't let you take anything else away from me. Sound of someone being cut down. Mana! I stopped. Mana. Stopped. If I were to write a letter to Shoko, how would I structure it? Dear Shoko, Mikami Itoha died of heart disease 5 years ago. Due to powers I don't quite understand myself, she came back to life. I may have killed her again myself, though. It's a long story that I'm not sure how to explain. Remembering you, Mana. Oh? Thinking about such a topic, I opened my eyes to write. The sterile smell of hospitals filled my nose, matching with the plain room. It was an ordinary hospital room with white sheets, 2 chairs by the bedside for visitation, and a little TV set atop a drawer. I wasn't much of a fan, but here I was again. I'd spent months before in this exact hospital in Taito, the top hospital in the country for trauma wounds and surgery. By the looks of it, I'd be here for another while. Knock, knock. Come in. Excuse my intrusion. Towa entered the room with a basket of fruits, which she placed on a small table next to my hospital bed. She had her usual, neutral expression. After the Mikami Itoha incident, the 2 of them moved to the city. Corners of her lips tugged up with a little smile. I recently bought a phone. Same model as yours, since it seems so sturdy. It really did go through a lot, Miss Smartwatch user. She frowned. At least it was charged. Your phone was so low on... At least it was charged. Your phone was so low on battery that we thought it would die before we even figured out how to unlock it. I'm glad I set up my fingerprint access. I looked toward the door for a second, waiting for an important person. Our meeting with the editor ends soon, right? No, I think it might have ended early today. I glanced toward the door again. Footsteps from the distance caught my attention. Towa smiled. There she is. Shiki! Sliding into the hospital room, Shiki skidded to a stop right before me. I heard a nurse shout at her from the hallway. She had a huge grin on her face, her cheeks dusted red with a blush. Mana! Why so out of breath? I wanted to see you. I'm so happy right now. Did the meeting with the editor go well? She grinned. Yep, and since it ended early, I could come see you sooner. She made a delicate twirl, her skirt flaring in the air, and hopped closer to me, taking my hands in her warm palms. Her sweet shampoo tickled my nose. The sun filtered through the window, shining on her. No, She was the one who was shining, brighter than the blue sky. She pressed her soft lips onto my hand, making my heart skip a beat. Pink rushed my cheeks, even though this was normal. I love you. Me too. I love you, Shiki. Warm. She was warm. Ah, the world was beautiful. Thought about my answer to the question she asked me so long ago. Yes, this world was beautiful. A warm and beautiful world. Ooh. Tricolored end. Oh. So what else do we have to see here now? Oh, there's one more ending scene to see. That one hurt. That scene in particular there, that hurt. That... Like, in the context of this story, that was literal torture. In a psychological sense, almost. So what else can we do here? Things we haven't seen yet. Really just comes down to two choices, right? Calling out the fake Shiki. So when we were here before, we called this out, didn't we? Yeah, she gasped. Eh? Your sister seems to hate me a little. Shiki raised her brows in surprise. She touched the string as if feeling out the thickness, letting it go once down. This extent is harmless. My sister doesn't hurt people. Contemplating an uncomfortable question, she paused. Shiki frowned. Do you want me to cut it? No thanks. So that's an interesting bit of perspective that we didn't actually see going on before. Like, Mana's capacity as a private investigator using black strings. Like, the black string between Towa and Shiki is just the result of a faint quarrel, which fades and disperses when Towa goes storming to save Shiki, and in the end, you saw that happen in real time. And a string between Towa and Mana is also not thick enough to be, like, unconditional hatred. Okay, moving on. I think we can... Yeah, realistically, we can just pass on. Poor choice of words in this situation. Leave it be. Sorry, it's nothing. Something seemed strange. Talked a little more before she let out a sigh. She frowned in disappointment. I'm not Shiki. She pulled down the blindfold and tossed the cloth to the side. A pair of healthy golden eyes looked at me. Mikami Itoha. Towa glared at me. Yes. Did I ever introduce myself? Shiki mentioned your name to me. I see. Towa sneered. Why should Shiki trust someone who can't tell us apart? Could you answer that question for me, Shirasagi Mana? Better yet, just don't get her wrapped up in any more trouble. Door opened again with a creak. So realistically, calling it out is a matter of trust. Like, earns us some Earns us some Towa sister-in-law points. Keeper appeared. Much to my relief, she was alone, not a monster in sight, and we can now move on. And we have to sit through. Doesn't change much immediately. It's a fairly safe bet. Doesn't affect... Oh. Towa does not come for us. My chest and my scars. Drip. Drip. There was the sound, but no liquid. It's almost like it had become music. A cacophony of buzzing rang through my head. And here was the accompaniment. Ah, that was me. Choking on my own breath, I gasped. I clawed at my ears, trying to silence the orchestra. Monsters melted out from the shadows. I tried to back away, only to scrape harshly against the stone wall. I was already against the wall, but my legs wouldn't stop shakily trying to push me back. Encroaching on my space, the monsters surrounded me. They covered me with their darkness, with their silent sounds of dripping, and grabbed my limbs. They were almost gentle, as if playing with a precious doll. One monster took me in its hands and lifted me off my feet. My leg dangled in the air. I scratched at its arms to no avail, rubbing my fingertips raw. Baring my teeth, I bit into it with a chomp. I recoiled back, feeling a sharp pain in my jaw, and licked my teeth. It was hard. Almost was as hard as steel. What did it taste like? What did darkness taste like again? Licorice or rotted pork? Monster slammed me into the wall. I didn't taste good either. Don't bite me back, please. Don't bite me back. Don't bite me back. Don't bite me back. Extending its tongue through its infinite sharp teeth, the thing that sprouted from a human body licked me with a burning cold tongue. I'd gone mad because such a thing shouldn't exist in this world. Scars throbbed and danced about my skin. Holding onto my body, the monsters pulled me through the halls to a strange room. Wonder how this looks if Towa, who seems like she wasn't immediately able to see the monsters as monsters, come stumbling upon us. I grabbed my right hand, pulling it forward to a cutting block. The rest of my body they held in place. What are you doing? My voice returned to me in a whisper. Punishment. Monsters made a voice that wasn't a voice, words that weren't words. You must be punished. I wanted to cover my ears, but I couldn't as my other arm was pulled back. For touching the vessel of the Holy One. For touching her resting grounds. They forced my right arm straight, yanking on my hand. Human with a golden eye. Then it wasn't my hand anymore. The sharp edge, the jagged edge, they cut it off. They sawed it off. Red spurted out from my limb, painting the ground. My head became fuzzy. I spasmed, trying to get away, flailing to no avail. Monster grabbed my head and smashed it downward, pushing my face into the ground. They cauterized the wound and waited for me to stop moving. When I was finally able to lift my head, I saw strings. Oh! All sorts of colors extended from my body. Black was accompanied by the entire visible spectrum, thin and thick, light and dark. However, those monsters had none. The strings pulsed. There were so many strings. I could not count. It is time. Monster dispersed, leaving only one with me. It took me by my still good arm, ignoring my hand on the ground, and dragged me out of the hallway. We soon passed through another doorway. Monster chucked me onto the ground, letting me roll, and joined its compatriots in a wall of black and red. Just beyond me was a deep pit whose end I could not see and I did not wish to see. Brick walls and useless light fixtures surrounded the massive pit. Keeper appeared. Welcome to our cradle. I'm glad you decided to join us. In Keeper's hand was a sword covered in red, dripping red. That's concerning. Eyes were drawn down the line it drew. Following a droplet of blood, I saw the victim of the blade. A familiar girl. Golden eyes were dull without the spark of life. Her head was detached from her body. No, that wasn't right. Her body was detached from her head. Her arms, her legs, her torso, and her head were all spread out across the ground like a flower. Her corpse painted out a fragment of a red picture. I wanted to puke. Towa was dead. Oh! Seeing flickering strings from her body, I followed the closest line to Shiki. It looked as if she had been crying terribly. Mana! I crawled toward her. The string between the twins must have been grief. Shiki cried out desperately. Towa can't be dead. My sister, tell me she's alright. I'm sorry, she's dead. Shiki's face melted into despair. She was trying to protect me. Though Keeper always liked Towa more, Towa never stopped protecting me until the very end. Shiki tugged at Towa's dead strings as if her sister could come back to life. The dismembered pieces did not move, and I could only force myself to look away, gritting my teeth. She grieved in shock. Seeking comfort, Shiki grabbed my hand, and defiant, only to grab an empty sleeve. Her fingers slipped down my jacket and trembled. What happened to your hand? Keeper came over and smirked. Punishment. Shiki shook. Keeper refashioned her smile into a reassuring one. But be at ease. The time of salvation is now. You will all be set free thanks to the Stringless God. And then it dropped back into a smirk. No, I'm afraid I should modify my wording. Your sacrifices will set us free. We who love this shining world will give you our gratitude and beseech you to give your obedient cooperation. Keeper swung the sword, shaking the red off the blade. I rushed toward Keeper to tackle the sword out of her hand, fearing that she would turn it on us next. The weapon fell to the ground with a clatter. Tumbling on the ground, I tried to reach for it, but with my dominant hand missing, I couldn't grasp it in time and found myself flung away by a harsh impact. The monster grabbed me and forced me to the ground once more. Follow her words and be obedient. Shiki was confused. Why are you doing this? Everyone's a person in the same town, so why? They're monsters. I'm not making a metaphor. They're literally monsters. Demons bursting out of human flesh. Priestess, this is your role. It's okay. All you have to do is follow. I could recognize their voices. They're people. They have to be. Because we cut their strings. They were people. So even if they're stringless, they're human. Shiki frowned. But that's a lie, isn't it? Because humans wouldn't do something like this. First the monsters approached, surrounding us. Just as their claws and teeth reached my neck, just as their hands reached Shiki, they stopped. Keeper held up a hand, stopping them. The Holy Maiden would like to speak with the sacrifices. Everything went silent. All the eyes went towards Mikami Itoha. These were not human eyes, but red eyes. Mikami Itoha approached. Her bare feet made scarcely a sound. There wasn't a single emotion on her face. You who were not born naturally with that golden eye, what do you see? She touched my face, lifting my chin with fingers made of ice. Her touch sapped away my heat and froze my blood. Inadvertently I met her eyes. They were like the endless depths, pits of darkness and color. She smiled emptily. Is this shining world beautiful? Monsters bent their bodies as if they were praying. For some reason I understood that she was the same thing as the thing in the abyss. You want to come out of there? What are you going to do? She stared at me. The ritual will finish. Then I will be able to see this shining world as well. What about the strings? Irrelevant. Tell me, is it beautiful to you? To your blue eye? To your golden eye? If you treasure it, remember its light before darkness envelops it. Surely you see something. She squinted at my eyes as if seeking for something bright. I was going to die. Then red splashed over my face. Ooh! A blade burst through Mikami Itoha's chest, stopping right before me. Behind her was Shiki, who had taken the sword off the floor in everyone's distraction. Shiki was shaking, but she had pierced through this woman's heart. Tears streamed down her angry face. So this is your choice, Shiki. Itoha smiled. Was Shoko happy when she died? She wanted to find you. No, she wanted to find Mikami Itoha. Until the very end, she was yearning for Mikami Itoha, because she wanted to beat her again. She frowned and narrowed her eyes, as if expecting that response. I see. So she was always foolish. Shoko. Rubbing the sword out of Mikami Itoha, Shiki slashed blindly at Mikami Itoha's neck. Mikami Itoha fell to the ground lifelessly, and Shiki dropped the sword to the ground. Shiki listlessly kicked the once again dead woman's body. I always hated you. The monsters all collapsed and screamed. Covering my left ear with my good hand, I writhed underneath the monster that fell onto me. Shiki pulled me out, helping me to my feet. The room started shaking. The entire underground rumbled, pieces of the ground crumbling into the darkness. Yet as I found wobbly equilibrium, I didn't think I could go any further. Shiki walked towards Towa's body. Kneeling on the ground, she gently pieced her sister together on the ground and closed those golden eyes. It was as if Towa was sleeping, lying in a bed of red flowers. Run away. Shiki smiled painfully. No, I don't want to. Have I ever told you how obnoxious you can be? You might be the first person to say that to my face. If you stay here, you'll die. Go, hurry and run away. Deep sadness washed over Shiki. You also aren't going, are you? I can't. And I won't either. After all, Towa is here, and you're here. Mana is here too. Shiki smiled. Between us was a red string. Wasn't that dripping with blood that puppeted the monsters bursting from the human bodies? It was a warm red string, like a soft piece of yarn that could connect our pinkies. I reached my hand out toward that string, fingers passing through it as always. However, my disturbance sent a slight vibration down the string. Shiki appeared surprised and touched the string as well. Is this red the color of love? Yes. It seems like I've fallen in love with you. Shiki was a beautiful girl, a kind girl, a warm girl. Of course she made my heart race and her tears made my chest hurt. I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to live well. I wanted to spend time with her because it was comfortable by her side, even with the little bit we spent together. Love, you could call it that. The suspension bridge effect is when your fear response is mistaken for romantic arousal. The strings don't lie. My heart doesn't lie. I love you not because I'm scared, but because I was happy. Shiki smiles wryly for a moment. We were always just going for our own goals, my sister and that woman. She frowned regretfully. I think we could have really gotten along if we had more time together. Yes. I think we could have had something wonderful. You're a beautiful person. I could tell from the moment I met you. You have a beautiful heart. Your strings were singing, shining. The kind detective. I also came to love you. Oh? Oh. Shiki stood and stepped close to me, fingers grasping onto my now empty sleeve. I wish we'd been able to fall in love properly. I also wish that. If we had been born into a more fortunate world, if we had walked a more fortunate path, what do you think would happen? Would we still meet and fall in love? Maybe not, but we can't change our current world. I don't hate it entirely. Because we were able to meet and find this bond. Yeah, me too. Kiss me? Oh, even if we're dying. Leaned forward, pressing my lips against hers, and closed my eyes. Her lips were soft. Her hair tickled my cheeks. She was so warm. The moment seemed to last forever. The moment seemed to last only a fraction of a second. I wished I could kiss her forever, my heart beating to tell me how comfortable it would be. Yet we had to part. Tears streaming down from her face from underneath her blindfold. I love you. The underground continued to shake, stones coming loose from the walls and ceiling. The floor beneath us was disappearing still, the abyss growing closer to our feet. The ground seemed to be breaking faster than the ceiling. Soon, Towa's body slipped into the darkness. You're really not going to run? Shiki smiled. No. Shiki took my hand, my one remaining hand, and squeezed. She was warm. The ground beneath our feet crumbled. We began to fall, the darkness swallowing us up. She continued. She pulled herself closer to me, hugging me tightly so as to not be parted from me. Even this warmth would be destroyed. I'm sorry. I love you. So, let's meet again in our next lives, okay? It's a promise. And so we fell, leaving behind a world that could have been beautiful. Oh. Mending, tricolor end, rending. Oh. It's gonna make sense that ending twos. Each character's second ending is happier. Both sisters survive and get to live. We get to live with them. Oh. A string mender. Priestess with golden eyes, the older twin, younger sister being the blindfold girl. She is the string cutter who snips away the threads that bind people with emotions good and bad. She is the Atropos of the title. She's the younger twin, older sister being the priestess with golden eyes. She's the string mender who has abandoned her role. But to what extent? Also, what a painful torture for poor Shiki. The string mender forced to cut the strings of someone close to her. It's ominous the way that she is described here. It's hard to say who she is. It's very hard to say. I was gonna say, my personal theory is that Keeper is Mikami Yasunobu's wife and Mikami Itoha's mother. In that respect. Okay. And this is it for Lachesis or Atropos. God, this was made the month for the Spooktober visual novel game jam, and wow. Love 2 is the Red Queen, and this delivered everything I could have asked for and then some. In terms of atmosphere, in terms of writing. I'm just saying, it'll have a very rhythmic, fairy tale-esque charm to the writing that noticed really well in Red Queen and came through just as well here. Applying that ominous, that fairy tale charm from a ominous, twisted fairy tale setting to a more grounded. I was gonna say, it's the small town setting and the local religion shrine aspect of the story and the suspicion surrounding all of it really gave this higurashi vibes. It delivered on that, but it also had really wild cosmic horror vibes to it in terms of the Stringless God. The Stringless God in the depths of darkness. The Angel, which we admittedly did not get much of a connection there. There's one thing I'm still rather curious on. The connection between the Stringless God, the angel. It's actually, to round this out, let's see if I can... An interesting little blog post here. Post-mortem. About the game. There's the inspiration behind Mana, Towa, and Shiki here. Find the following string snippet on a document of ideas. The string is black. Red string of fate doesn't exist, but I can see the black string of hatred. Girl over there, looks like her neck will snap off like that of a broken doll. So many strings, strangling her. Why, I wonder? It seems she hates me for some reason. That is also a terrifying thought, that it's strings of love connect in a gentle manner, but strings of hate connect in a suffocating manner. That was the starting point of this here. So Lachesis for the Atropos went out over the following: Japanese mythology mermaid cannibalism game. Oh! Chinese setting Chuni zombie game. Oh! Concerning. Title referred to it as a Denpa-esque game. There's a lot that goes into the idea of Denpa. If there was a short version on a thing that I'm not fully educated about, it deals heavily in delusions. That is probably safe to say. Yeah, disconnection and dissociation from reality and delusions here. So, it's safe to say that it draws inspiration from Denpa-esque matters, but... Shikoku no Sharnoth. Say, I will admit to not being familiar with the inspirations here, but the golden eyes, the fairy eyes, golden eyes being referred to as fairy eyes did seem kind of an offhand reference that never came up again, so... So that was intentionally a reference to this series, the steampunk series. Worth looking into. You didn't get to see, yep. So Keeper also channeled her inspiration from these games. Okay, so in Towa's route, we got some degree of the kanji behind each character's names here, but here they are in practice. Oop, Mana's name can also be read as I, but we chose to go with Mana. It suits her a bit, but it does. Ito's name was mostly chosen for the string character. Similarly with Shiki. Yeah, Shiki got a specific reference to the strings. One of the two could have been called K, but chose not to go with another reference. An actual reference. So Shoko's name is a reference to the protagonist of Aoi Shiro. Another game to put down on a list to check out down the line. What was Mikami previously? There you have it. I think I like how that came out better. I say, a fool who does not know how to read kanji. Story inspiration. Ooh. Lachesis, Atropos. Yeah, like I said from looking over the character profiles there. Clearly, Shiki is the Lachesis of the story, a mender. Towa was the Atropos, the cutter. So the original story structure. String mender. Shiki's route, Towa is guaranteed to die. Older variation of Shiki's bad end. Atropos. Towa's route, Shiki would be guaranteed to die. So, Towa's bad end where Shiki dies off screen and comes back to life. And Shiki's bad end where Towa doesn't trust us, tries to save Shiki on her own and dies. And Parka, the Roman name for the Fates, a true route unlocked after clearing the previous two. Everyone lives, but they trigger a calamity and must stop it, which is kinda sorta how both the true routes play out, where we have to cut the strings of the monsters before the ritual can be completed. If you were to compare Parker's ending to anything, it would be Towa's route. Calamity, the Stringless God. Depending on how you go about it in Towa's route, you may fail to stop the Stringless God from entering the Shining World. Both routes do kind of get a similar outcome here. So the true route, the Parka, would give us more information about the Stringless God and the angels, which is a curious point that I feel like we got missed out on. Which thus makes sense why you call Towa's good ending the closest to the true route here. Because Towa's true ending, we get immediately dunked headfirst into the darkness and the Stringless God, then thrust face first into the face of the angel, who just starts the countdown to destroying us. And then I think, ultimately I do really like Towa's good ending over Shiki's, even though I do really like Shiki. But I feel like Towa's true ending was the better ending for Mana's character. Coming full circle, finding a reason to live. Or at least finding a strong desire for life, and that's the miracle string that stops her from inverting and becoming a monster. So the park ending was distributed across Towa and Shiki's route purely for scope, which is fair. I am curious to know, since Red Queen got a Steam release with some small updates, would we ever consider, like, full release of this game with the full scope of what the true route, what the Parker route would have been. I'm probably mispronouncing that. That is probably not pronounced like the piece of winter gear. And the twins birth monsters as well. Demons can be born from both of them. In the correct situation, there's the possibility of angels being born from the remnants of their souls as well. Oh. Towa. Oh. Towa falls to the ground like a puppet with her strings cut, her pretty golden eyes empty. Tearing open her back like a butterfly and emerging from its chrysalis, a monster bursts out, dripping with blood. And it speaks with her voice and asks me, Why? Why are you afraid of me? A tragic scene that we were able to avoid. After all, the monsters can speak. Oh, I want that. Oh! Oh! There's the answer to that question. What are the angels? An antivirus program for the world. Automated existences, they respond when being humans lose all their strings for some reason or another and crush the bugs. They do not account for the Stringless God's actions of placing the eggs of demons in the future dead. In a sense, the Stringless God is saving these lives. In a very twisted sense, but... Oh. So in the normal process of someone having all their strings cut, when their last strings were cut, they get brought into the shrine to talk to Keeper. And then we witness the aftermath of that talk with Keeper, where they just get fucking deleted, and then a demon is born from them. So we saw the angel in action. Wow, so that was that. We've seen that in action. We nearly experienced that. When Shiki cut our strings in her route, we never had the encounter with the Stringless God directly. So we never had that planted. So we didn't get auto-deleted, I suppose. Well, I suppose I'm not entirely. That's my working theory to explain why we didn't get Control-Alt-deleted by the angels in Shiki's route. Or maybe Shiki managed to save some of our strings from Keeper's gaze. What are the strings in the context of demons and angels? The protective layers of the soul. Emotions are like the immune response mechanism against the cancer of the soul. While cutting all strings may in fact give some sort of freedom from a higher puppet master, it matters little when the end result is death. The demons are born from the human remnants of human souls. All children require sustenance. What is the Stringless God? Parka. Fates? Regarding Mikami Itoha, also a very important character to the plot. She's filled with unknowns up until the end. Is the Mikami Itoha we see truly the woman who Shoko loved? She was a receptacle for Keeper's plans, both from the birth of the two priestesses and for the manifestation of the Stringless God. She was a person who wanted to become a person, but was never treated as such by the people closest to her. Not by her father, not by Keeper, not by her daughters that she didn't care for. So, that's some fuck. So that confirms that fucked up family dynamic. Mikami Itoha is Towa and Shiki's mother, and also their sister. Fucking Yasunobu. Always a bit of a stoic one, so the underclassman Shoko would have had to be the one chasing. They became close, but Shoko left for Teito in the end. Birth of Towa and Shiki caused a chasm between Itoha and Shoko. No one but the Mikami family head and Keeper were aware of the unnatural pregnancy. As Itoha had always been rather sickly, it was easy to hide her away from everyone and everything during that period. Thus for Shoko, who wasn't aware why Itoha refused to see her, she could only think, she abandoned me. Thus for Itoha, who didn't know why Shoko wouldn't come bother her anymore, she could only think, she abandoned me. They're oddly in sync. If you looked at the timeline, Itoha would be a teen, too young at the time of the twins' birth. What was she supposed to do? A villain no one mentions in the tale is really Mikami Itoha's father. Yeah, you're fucked up! You're fucked up! Is Itoha's role more like that of the Virgin Mary given the task of birthing a savior by her god? That of Lavinia Wheatley, born into an unfortunate family of madness who gave birth to monstrous children? While Mikami Itoha isn't someone Mana understands, she's someone Shoko cared for deeply, someone who cared deeply for Shoko. Both of them die without being able to address the person most important to them. Even though we don't get to know her very well, it'd be nice for Mikami Itoha to be able to get her happy ending, too. Maybe she can meet Shoko in the afterlife, just as Mana's joked. The two can see where they go from there. As for the mystery of Keeper, I'll leave that a mystery for now. The twins. Ah, okay. I get to know them. Their fragile sides, their cute sides, their strong sides, their stubborn sides. Yeah, that's, I can definitely see why Mana fell for them. Why is there no kiss in the happy Shiki ending? Shiki's the type of girl who takes things slowly and carefully weighs her priorities. Fair. In her bad ending, she was very clearly dying, and as such, caution to the wind. Fair enough. Shocking considering how very forward and teasing that Shiki is, but that's... Ultimately, she's never really been in love, never really had that connection. That's just how she is. As such, forming a true connection there, that's a bit more nervous and pensive and concerning thing for Shiki to tackle. But it's nice to see her tackle that. What's with the smartwatch? Smartwatch equals Ojo. That's the Shino design way. Oh, yeah. Jokes aside, regardless of whether Towa's pants and jacket have pockets, since she doesn't really have any friends, she stopped carrying around a smartphone. The watch? It's got everything she needs. Like the time. She can even play Tetris on it if she really wants to. Nice. It's always had a lot of things to say, but I'll cut it off at here. Thanks for reading through my ramblings. More importantly, thank you for playing Lachesis v Atropos. Hope you enjoyed your time with my girls. I did enjoy my time with them. I had a lot of fun making this game, scribbling out the designs, writing their story, and watching all the pieces come together. Whether I'll return to this world in the future is a question I won't answer. Aha. However, I hope you'll remember them fondly and come back to see Towa, Shiki, and Mana again from time to time. May we all reach our yearn for happy ending. If I've learned anything here, embrace your strings. Don't fear your strings. They are part of who we are in the end. All in all, they are nothing to be afraid of. On that note, it is time for us to leave this tiny little village behind, and these lovely girls behind. May they find happiness in this world full of bright, shining strings. On that note, signing off for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, until then.